All right. So, welcome, Barbara, to
Thank you.
All People Are Interesting. I'm kind of stoked about this. You are a lung cancer researcher, right? That's what you do?
A medical oncologist, yes, where my present role is in development of new drugs for treatment of lung cancer. Yes, that's my
Okay.
focus.
Okay. So, a lot of, there's a huge range of people that would be categorized as researchers. Some
Right.
are going, but your specific aspect of your part is to do uh, medicine.
Sure. Yes. So
Okay.
I'm a physician. I'm a medical oncologist. I have had a academic career, and I still are part of the faculty at University of Southern California here in Los Angeles. I also work for Genentech, Roche Genentech, which is a biotech company, and I'm in development of new therapies. So I'm not the one mixing test tubes and things like that, but I am the one that brings it to the patient. So we develop the drugs after they are a hopeful drug, and we develop them with people that are afflicted with lung cancer.
Okay, so you're directly in contact with people that have lung cancer.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. And you would be the person that somebody says, "Hey, these are the new drugs that we're trying," and they give them to you. Like, just to really simplify it. I mean, I know it's not like they're in the
No,
other room saying, "Hey, try this."
sure.
Um, so
Let's back. So
yeah.
um, so I started in an academic clinical researcher seeing patients. So what that means is I had private clinic at USC, and also attended the county clinic, Los Angeles County, which is one of the largest county hospitals in the United States. So direct patient contact, bringing clinical trials of new drugs. So a patient would come with lung cancer, and depending on whether they were newly diagnosed or they were diagnosed and had already been treated and they were looking for other lines of treatment, the next best thing, um, you know, I myself would offer them either standard of care or the possibility of participating in a clinical trial where they would have access to a new drug that was kind of pushing the envelope. Okay. And right now, I still maintain a voluntary faculty position. So I do still see patients at USC when I can get there on a Thursday morning. They have a clinic at the county hospital. But my full-time work is at a biotech company where we're actually developing those clinical trials so that we can bring that to different sites globally, and so they will have access to developing that drug for their patients with lung cancer.
Okay. So with respect to your work, are you are you doing a lot of patient examinations, or are you doing a lot of looking at paperwork and um, research that people are handing you to see the effectiveness, or how much of it's firsthand
Well,
and how much of it's second?
insightful. That's very insightful. I've done all the above and still do all the above. So when I
Okay.
go to clinic at the county hospital, I'm actually seeing, real live, lovely patients that, come for help, and treating them and, recommending treatment. Um, Full-time job as I am, yes, evaluating different drugs that the company has either developed or drugs acquired from other developers, and helping to write different studies that will get passed. They first go to health authorities for review, like the Food and Drug Administration and the European Medicinal Agency, to make sure that we have patient safety and patient well-being in the utmost of at hand, like number one. And then we open those trials at different sites globally. And then we monitor those trials and look at the results exactly, on an ongoing basis to make sure we're seeing, you know, uh, efficacy, meaning that patients are responding or not responding, and of utmost important would be safety, that, these patients already have a horrible disease and we're not harming them.
Hmm.
And that's pretty much how drugs are developed.
Got it. Okay. So that's got to be super. That's got to be a huge benefit to you having the background that you do and still being in, most of the machinery, most of the entire process, versus being siloed and you're one piece and you're dependent on information coming and going into you.
Yeah, I'm very lucky that way. So I had a very long academic career, where I was at, either UCLA or USC, with a private clinic or seeing patients at the county hospital, and that was, hands-on offering trials. Now I'm more in the other side of this, like the trials that were handed to me were developed by somebody, and that's what I'm doing now with my teams, at Genentech. So I kind of have my hand in both ends of this.
So,
The trial development, the trial monitoring, the compilation of results, to share, getting new drugs approved. Those are all wonderful aspects of my career. But my company allows me to go on Thursday mornings when I can make it, to a clinic that's at the Los Angeles County Hospital.
oh, okay.
Yes, that's
So
why I
you're
still.
regularly, that was one of my other questions, was how often are you in this?
Right. So it's
Um,
not a full-time job, but I'm able to go on Thursday mornings. I can't make it every Thursday morning, but I try to go there a couple times a month, and actually see patients. It's really refreshing for me because, there's interns and residents and fellows that are interested in a career in medical oncology. So, I get to, help their careers along, teach them, make sure they're keeping the patient first, doing a good job.
so with respect to the data that you get in, when I'm sure that from time to time you have questions, right? When you look at something and you go, I'm either not understanding this or the data's wrong. Is that is that easy for you to access the people that did the research and get answers? Is that
So
what goes into
yeah,
that?
that's a great, insightful question. So, I mean, when we are monitoring a clinical trial, that is, of utmost importance, that, we have a steering committee. So those are all external experts in the field, and we meet, remotely, or, we try to meet at least once a year at a big major conference, together, and talk about the trial conduct, and any issues that have come up that makes us want to change the conduct of the trial, to make it more safe, or, whatever the issue is. And we have a whole entire team, at the actual company that monitors, what's going on with the clinical trial, because there is reporting that is by law, it has to happen. Like at a site, just say there's an open site at, you know, um, University of Massachusetts, and an oncologist is treating a patient and there's a bad safety signal. They are required by law to report that to us so that we can investigate
Yeah,
these
yeah.
things. So everything's monitored, in an ongoing basis by us. We have
Got it.
regular meetings and, milestone meetings that we have to have with health authorities like the Food and Drug Administration, European Medicinal Agency, etc.
Got it. That's super interesting. And I could definitely see me chasing rabbits and asking a ton of questions on this. But one of the things that I want to know, okay, so the field that you're in isn't like shoemaking that has a 1,000-year history, right? The field that you're in, well, in some respects, I guess it does, because it's medicine, but your specific field, of oncology research and this sort of thing is um, is not all of that old. So your upbringing, um, how did that prepare you? Did it prepare you? Are you pioneering, this? as a like, or would Gitlitz down the road? Gosh, that sounded almost like I was making fun of something, but but would would uh would other people that are following you, your kids, would they say, "Wow, mom like pioneered something or whatever"? Like my business, my livelihood, I can't think of a single thing that my upbringing like really helped me prepare for it. I don't come from a long line of screen printers or people that were in the arts. Um, is there something about your upbringing that prepared you for this, or are you just like off doing your own thing, living your own life?
Sure. Um, I think a little of both. So, I mean, I had the privilege of having a father who was a physician. He was a general
Okay.
practitioner. So, not a researcher, real bread and butter, worked in an area where there was definitely, unmet need for patients to have access to, physicians and, kind of did everything to treat his patients, almost like, like a typical country doctor. He even had like one of those leather bags,
Yeah.
with, so, that was a
But you
great,
had some exposure to
yes.
medical and healthcare and these sorts of things. Okay.
Yes, I have a very close aunt who was a nurse, and my sister, who is also a nurse. So I have had some, medical influence. I'm the youngest of four, but I'm the only one who pursued a MD degree, a physician degree. So,
Are your siblings in healthcare?
like I said, I have one sister who is, and then I have a brother
Okay.
and sister, who are not, who
Okay.
are more into business. Um, so yeah, I, worked hard and this is what I wanted. Medicine interested me. I didn't know that I was going to be an oncology researcher and,
There
make
you
a
go.
career at that point. I was just interested in medicine. I want to help people. Actually, the first thing that I was interested in was being a veterinarian because like, I grew up, we always had dogs. They were always my best friends. I was very interested in, in their care and their health.
Got it.
But,
Huh?
I got influenced by my family to reconsider and go into medicine, really because, my father told me, which is actually a truth, that the veterinarians that I meet, they're seeing, small animal hospitals, your pets, but, a lot of veterinary medicine is like monitoring, you know, cattle and sheep and pig farms and, things that would just gut me, in terms to see animals, being raised for slaughter, like that. So, that was a big, you know, awakening to, maybe this is for me, because I mean, I could have always pressed to do, small animal care, but anyway, so I decided that I would focus on medicine for humans and, and just continue my love for animals and pets, but focus on a career in medicine and humans. And medical school, very tough, everything that you hear, it's very, very tough, very tough going. A lot of times, you're up awake all night and you're doubting yourself and you're not sure what to do and you're scared. And, I'm just admitting things that all people go through in their training. Um, and so then after medical school, you do like an internship and a residency. So, that was in internal medicine. Same thing, very, very difficult, very long hours, so much to learn. But, I really loved medicine. And it was really like, oh, I'm rotating through the intensive care unit. Oh, I want to be an intensivist. Oh, I'm doing a rotation in nephrology. Oh, I want to take care of patients with kidney
Well,
failure.
that's
Oh,
super interesting.
you
Okay,
know,
so
my
let
patients
me.
are getting,
So I wanted to ask you a question about, there was a time when there was a spark where you looked at it and you said, well, that's interesting, like cancer research. But you also talked about how when you were doing like residency, right, which means that you're moving all over the place, you're getting
yeah,
exposure to lots of different things. Is that the
yeah.
purpose of residency? Is to
Yes.
is okay, okay. So walk me
Yeah.
through that. What did you're going through medical school. You what's the order? You sign up, you take general class. Like how? Like I didn't go to any sort of education after high school. I was happy to leave high school and just read lots of books. Right.
Oh, awesome.
Um.
Yeah.
Uh. Sitting in a
Completely.
class wasn't my thing. Carrie,
I
go
don't
ahead.
I'm
What's
just
that?
kidding around. I mean, I said I'm completely illiterate. I don't read books for pleasure. So you are probably more sophisticated and worldly than I am. But anyway,
I have
so you
met some extraordinarily brilliant people that
yeah,
haven't picked up a book for like that wasn't a textbook in forever, and I'm astonished at that. And so yeah, it's funny because I'm becoming less and less astonished at it. I just sort of assumed that everybody that was doing cool, interesting things did a lot of reading, and now I'm like finding super successful people. I read this one book 20 years ago and I just put it to work and it's been working for me for the last 20 years. And I'm like, that's so wild. Okay, carry on. So, okay, you
so
start going to school. Walk me through this.
so you go to college. You have to go to you have to get a 4-year college degree. Um, and usually you major in some kind of science or something, and then
Mhm.
you apply to medical school. Medical school is 4 years. Usually, I mean, I don't, usually the first year or two are completely like, in classrooms, you're learning about the basis of, the foundations of medicine and the human body. Um, by the way, I was in anatomy lab and I was called to the office for them to let me know that my father had died
Oh,
in
dang.
a car accident on his way to work. He was 70 years old. He was still, working as a
Wow.
GP. So, that had a major, impression on me, and it was very, very difficult.
Was there some connection with the school and him or they just,
No, no,
that
my
was just
family
how you
called.
happen to find out?
Yeah, that's how I found out. No, I mean, my family called the school to say, Barbara needs to come home and meet me. Her father had just been,
Okay. Wow.
and it was kind of the school of hard knocks back in those days. I remember, I had maybe, that work week off. And then, they expected me to come back to medical school, get right back in the groove, So it was really tough. So
That
anyway,
the field that you're in emotionally is demanding. And I think that that's something that can be overlooked. Just the fact that, you're human, you got into it. Most people, I think, got into it because not just that they were interested or curious, but was because they cared. And, then they wind up going through this process where they become either more human or like, it adjusts them and it changes them.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, things have gotten better. There's a lot of rules and laws around, the time that any one person can spend in the hospital. There's not like, the hazing and the demanding that, you have to be,
has internship changed?
internship changed like a good 20 years ago. And the first major change was just that, limiting the number of hours that you can
Oh,
spend.
okay.
But I
I
missed
haven't
all
watched I haven't watched a show like ER in probably 25 years. And like shows like that, they were like, yeah, the interns, you just haze them, you beat them up, you work
that.
them for 20 hours a day and let them sleep 4 and
Yeah, you
so
can.
it's not like that. That's good to hear.
No. I mean, I've never been mean to any trainees ever in my life. So I'd never bought into that, but that's completely outlaws and they're outlawed and there's, ways to report that, etc.
That's
So
excellent. Okay.
definitely
Okay, I'm
accountability.
sorry. I've interrupted you a
No, this is
couple
a
of
great,
times now. So
and
we're trucking along. You went
trucking.
through a 4-year school, and now you've signed up. You're into a second 4-year school. That's
Right,
8 years. Now,
right.
for me, that would be like 8 years of
That's not
just a
enough.
horror, just an 8-year long horror story.
Well,
But
it's not because, again, if you love medicine, you're learning medicine. It's
yeah, yeah,
tough
yeah.
and it's and you're taking care of actual patients. So the second 2 year, I'm sorry, the last 2 years of medical school are literally you're in the hospital. You're a
Oh wow.
trainee.
Okay.
You're part of the
Okay.
you're
So
part
that's years 9 and 10. or is that years 7 and 8?
7 and 8. Seven.
Okay,
So
beautiful.
medical
Okay.
4 years. So the first 2 years are academics. You got to go to the lab. You have to, sit in those big classrooms, learn about medicine. And then the
Okay.
second 2 years, you actually go to hospitals and help take care of patients under supervision because you're still a medical student. Yeah. So then after you graduate medical school, you do a residency, and that's usually, well, for internal medicine, that's 3 years. So that's internal medicine where now you're not a trainee, you're actually a physician as part of a team, taking care of patients. And you still rotate through the cardiac care unit, the intensive care unit, the regular internal medicine floors, you do rotations through nephrology or pulmonology. You get to rotate all through all the surgery. Well, no, surgery would have been a rotation in medical school. So if you go into internal medicine, so pretty much I'm just saying, you get to get a taste of all the different specialties. And after your residency in internal medicine, you can hang up a shingle or, stay in academics or whatever and become an internal medicine doctor, which is, very a general care of patients and, an invaluable a physician. And those are generally, our primary care physicians. Or you do a fellowship, which means you want to specialize. You want to become a cardiologist. You want to become a gastroenterologist. You want to become an oncologist. So I decided to become an oncologist. So why?
Okay, so what was the spark? What was the thing that made you go, oh, I need to do this?
So, like I said, during medical school, during residency, even though it was a tough time, it was still like being a kid in a candy store because, I loved medicine. And like I would rotate through pulmonology. Oh my God, I want to be a pulmonologist.
So you find the human body just really fascinating.
Well, medicine,
Is that a huge part of it?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, when you say medicine, can you give me a definition? Because I want to make sure that we're both talking about the same thing. When you talk about you love medicine, I'm assuming you're not talking about I love capsules and I love that's one definition.
The field of medicine. Yes, the field of medicine.
Field. Yes, which would include what? What would the field include?
So when you said the human body, I think of like people who decide to go into, they want to become a professor of anatomy or physiology. Medicine means that you are treating health and you are treating disease, be that surgically or, with different medicines or, yes.
Okay, so when you say medicine, okay, so you're talking about the treatment of disease with
maintenance of
medicines, not beyond a scalpel.
Correct.
So
yes.
this would include like radiation. This would include it wouldn't include radiation.
You have to be a specialist to give radiation. That would be a radiation oncologist. So
so this is involving things that you ingest or you get injected with. Is that where you're limiting this? Beautiful. Okay.
The treatment of health, also the maintenance of health, not just the treatment of disease, the diagnosing of disease and the treatment of disease. Right.
Beautiful.
So after internal medicine residency, you can choose to end it there and become a primary care physician, which is a fantastic field. Or you can do a fellowship, which is another 3 years, where you become a specialist, like in cardiology or pulmonology or critical care or medical oncology. So I did a 3-year fellowship in hematology.
So you're like in your 30s before you even like really started to step out of the classroom and start into the profession.
Well, you can step out of the classroom and into the profession, in your late 20s if you just complete internal medicine. But then you do.
But the career path that you were on required more education.
Right.
And so, okay, carry on. I'm sorry for interrupting you like I do. I find what you're saying to be very interesting, and I want to make sure that I'm clear on it.
100%.
And I'm not making too many assumptions. So that's what I'm trying to interrupt is when I'm concerned I'm going to make an assumption.
Continue to interrupt. Yeah. So what was the spark that made me want to go into oncology? A few things. When I was it was medical school, my aunt my closest aunt, my mom's sister, who actually lived with us, developed ovarian cancer. And I watched her, her journey. But that can be very depressing because her journey was sad and ended up with her death. But when I was rotating through the fields and the different rotations in medical school and in residency, it was clear that oncology was a wonderful field. It wasn't depressing. Everyone's, oh, why do you want to go into oncology? It's so depressing. It's just the opposite. It's hope. I mean, you are giving people hope.
Oh,
It was the one field that I saw that like there was big drugs being developed. Like we were, in cardiology, they were giving the same old drugs, blah, blah, blah. But I don't want to put that down. I mean, that
no, no, no.
cardiology,
You're good. You're good. You're good. I understand.
you know, people no longer like, you see those movies where people are eating at the table and just like die of a heart attack right there. I mean, that just like doesn't happen anymore because with modern medicine. But, in oncology, there were so many, especially I was doing my residency at UCLA, and there were just so many patients that were admitted and they were being treated with investigational drugs for the cancer. It was just so interesting to me, and it was so hopeful. The hope that those patients, held in their hearts, that was, just beaming through their eyes, to be able to get, treatment that hopefully would help them and maybe help other people.
Yeah.
Because we can't get a drug approved unless we prove that it helps it helps people. So, I mean, some people would even tell me that, even if this drug doesn't help me, I've participated in something that maybe the next person will benefit from. It was just amazing, and the stories and the kindness and the gratitude and the relationships that you develop with these people was with these patients was just amazing. And I was like, that's it, that's what I want to do. It's not depressing. It's just the opposite. It's hopeful. It's brightness. Yeah.
So,
So
has there been a medical breakthrough that you were part of that you can say, hey, the work that I did 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I know has saved thousands and thousands of lives? Is there anything like that?
So, first of all, yeah, I mean, I've treated many patients on clinical trials, and some of those drugs didn't end up being approved, and some did. I mean, there's been, since my career, there's been two major revolutions in oncology care. One has been targeted agents. So that means, what does that mean? That means, people in the labs, et cetera, have identified a mutation that drives that patient's cancer. So instead of treating all lung cancer the same, like, oh, you have lung cancer. Okay, you have lung cancer. We now can figure out what mutation is driving that patient's lung cancer and drug that with a pill. So, your patient comes and they're newly diagnosed. You send their tissue or their blood off for testing to see if there's a mutation that's driving their cancer. If they're lucky enough to have one, you're like, listen, I can treat you with a pill. So that's
Yeah.
really amazing. And that is totally, extended, like that Marcus Welby, you have 6 months to live, horrible thing. What that means when you say you have 6 months to live,
Okay,
that means,
stop. Now I need to know, when did you go? Like, what's the timeline year wise? Okay, you're referencing Marcus Welby, and you're going back to Lawrence Welk, and you're making me feel like when I was a
it's a
kid, like these
cliche.
shows were on.
It's
So
a it's
when
a
did you
cliche.
graduate college?
We don't need to talk about age. We're talking about just cliches, right? I mean, people still say, cliches and
Okay.
things, sayings that they learned that, are from like the 50s and the 20s. And,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
it's because I don't know. These are just cliches, but,
You referencing Marcus Welby made me go, oh my gosh.
well, all growing up, even now, there's like, you have 6 months to live.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
that TV, crap like that. That's like, that means, if you follow 100 people with the same stage, the same diagnosis at 6 months, half of them will be alive and half of them won't be alive. That's like a median. So, with
Yeah,
these
the
new
human
drugs,
bodies are very complicated and super individual, and like and for the same reason why they don't respond to the same medication the same way, but okay, so in there you'd made a comment that now I'm curious. I know that the way that they used to test for different types of cancers is different than the way that they test now. So like now they make draw blood and look for something in your blood. Maybe at some point they were more prone toward biopsies and taking a tissue sample. What are the different ways that they're checking to see if people have lung cancer? And then what are the processes for narrowing it down? Because you had said something super important in there that there are different, there's not just lung cancer, there's like types of lung cancer, which would require different kinds of treatment. So what's the diagnosis? How does that happen?
Still done by a biopsy. I mean, you still need tissue, to be sent to a pathologist to look under the.
How do they collect it by? How do they collect that? Do they really like stick something down your nose or?
It all depends, like if a person went to surgery, it's the most modern ways and the easiest are like by guidance by a radiologist who kind of stick a needle into a tumor with the guidance of a CT scanner or an MRI or ultrasound or whatever it is. Tumors in the liver, it's in the lung. So, there's all different methods to try to be what we call minimally invasive in order to get the, enough tissue for a pathologist to look at under the microscope. And then the lung cancer, is it small cell lung cancer, which is treated differently from non-small cell? Is it non-small cell? Is it squam, or is it adenocarcinoma? And then, we use that same tissue or a blood specimen to look for those driver mutations. So, we have all these slices of the pie. It used to be just lung. Now it's, small cell versus non-small cell. Non-small cells broken up into squames. Non-squames is broken up into, 12 more pieces, depending on what's driving that cancer. Yeah. So that was the first, wave of like just amazing, care for patients and improve longevity. So, we move the needle from, you have 6 months to live, take care of your, deal with your stuff, to, 12 months to like now, 2+ months, to 12 months to now like 24 months, 2 years. It just kept being pushed down the line. And then the second major wave, was immunotherapy. Where we use the body's immune system, which we always knew that the immune system was fighting cancer, but there have been drugs that are developed to help the immune system fight cancer. And those drugs are usually used with patients that don't have those cool driver mutations for which pill. Those are usually the patients that don't have those. And immunotherapy is done the same for those patients, but it's in the vein and it's usually given with or without chemotherapy. But even chemotherapy, have more modern chemotherapies where some of them people don't hair.
Old chemotherapy we would probably regard as kind of barbaric now.
Yeah, I've never used those.
Just blast you and then cross our fingers and try to count stuff.
Yeah.
But something that you said there with respect to like employing somebody's immune system, are you talking about provoking it or strengthening it, or like which way are you coming at this?
So, no judgment, I'm not talking about like, supplements or, these are real drugs have been scrutinized, in academics and developed.
No, I've got no judgment. I'm just trying to figure out what the philosophy is. Are you trying to like poke it and make it fight back and then go kill that stuff? Or are you trying to like get it pumped up? And
so we have cells of the immune system, of course. And think of it this way. Sometimes people develop autoimmune diseases like rheumatoid arthritis and lupus, and that's your own immune system attacking your body.
Yes, okay.
The immune system has like gone awry because the immune system has breaks, meaning, those cells of the immune system can't just go and, eat your joints, with rheumatoid arthritis. So there's breaks.
They've got specific things that they do, right? Specific, okay.
There are checks and balances, if you will, to the immune system. Okay, so some of these new immunotherapy drugs kind of release the brakes release some of the immunosuppression that's caused by the
Oh,
tumor.
okay.
Tumor cells can immunosuppress normal immune cells and a normal immune response. And some of these new immunotherapies kind of, release those brakes that the immune system is using to evade the immune system.
Got it.
So, as a consequence, there are side effects to these immunotherapies. Thankfully, they occur more rarely, and thankfully they don't occur at very high grades where patients' lives are threatening. Since you're releasing the brakes of the immune system, some people do develop almost like rheumatoid arthritis, attacking their own immune
Yeah,
system,
yeah, yeah.
starting to.
There's always a side effect. It's like,
Yeah.
it's like trying to play the piano with mittens. You kind of like you're aiming for this, but you don't know enough. And the farther along we get, the better, more specific we're going to be able to get. When you
Exactly.
said when like do you think that in some respect you're causing the immune system to become aware of something, or because you kept saying remove the brake?
Yep. Yeah. So the cancer cells can cloak themselves from the immune system. They don't play the normal roles of the immune
Okay.
system. They don't express certain receptors or at their
Oh,
surface.
so they're not
Usually
clicking into the
you
thing.
can think of it,
Got it.
that's a great analogy as a lock and key. So, think of the cancer cells as having like the lock, but they've put like a piece of tape over it,
Yeah.
you know,
So
or,
the immune
or
system isn't even recognizing it as a keyhole. And then, okay, and so you guys are making, which do you think that you guys are doing? Are you making it so that the cancer is more recognizable, or that the immune system is seeing it? Or is it like, am I
these
just
drugs
like doing something weird?
these drugs work on both sides of that, but it
Okay.
definitely allows, the receptor and just for the lock and key, to come together in
That's
favor of response. Yeah. So,
that's
these are
exciting.
very interesting drugs. They have saved the lives or given people, months, years, some people are even cured, by these drugs. There are 5-year plus survivors because they are treated
Yeah.
these drugs. So they have
So
really
what are you
revolutionized.
most excited about in your field? What are you the most like? Well,
Yeah,
so I got two
innovation.
questions. One is I want to know what you're most excited about, and then what, maybe before you answer that, what is it that is the thing that when people talk to you about your job that they're the most surprised about, that that when you talk about it they're like, really, like you do what? What is
Well,
that?
just again, what we went back to, all those the people that were telling me, when I decided to go into oncology, oh my God, that's so depressing.
Mm.
Why do you go into oncology?
I
You know,
did like what you said about that. I love that your viewpoint was absolutely optimistic and positive,
yes.
not, it's like you're not stuck on, and that's the thing, is that when you were talking I was like, this is an emotional thing, this is like, it's weighty, but the fact is that a lot of people's lives have things that maybe they get a little bit too focused on the negative things, and they don't recognize, what, I actually won over here and something awesome happened, and you get to win.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what I loved about, the idea. Like, I love the fact that you could win at scale if you can figure out, like, if you can be part of a breakthrough. The idea that there are tens of thousands of people that you've never met, that you added years to their lives, or like
To that.
that's awesome. That's where your head should be.
Right.
um
Yeah.
what are
Yeah.
you the
Not
most excited about?
um the next generation, it's already out there, like in clinical trials, the next generation of immunotherapy drugs, the next generation of those targeted drugs for patients who have oncogenic drivers that, have genes that have gone awry that are driving their cancers to reproduce, putting the brakes on that too. So, we always try, that's another great thing about oncology, and it's like, am I ever going to retire? Talking about age, I guess not, because it just gets more exciting and more exciting and more exciting with all the, the new drugs out there, you know.
No, and
People,
the thing is that the world needs this kind of definitely there comes a tipping point where you're not as much benefit as,
Right.
but, I mean, until you hit that point, you just keep going. Like, why would you stop? Like, the only reason why Michael Jordan or any of these people stopped was because they couldn't do it anymore. The love of the game, that's awesome. And the fact is this is an important game. Um, okay. What, oh, something in there that you had just said made me want to know what, with respect to patients, I'm sure that you have seen it where attitude affected the people's physiology. This isn't just about blood and lungs, and like, this isn't just biology. Like, biology is affected by the way that we think. It's a piece of us being human. What would you say, walk me through your thoughts on people, because I'm sure that you've seen some people with an attitude and you're like, they're going to win. And there's other people that you're like, gosh, I'm so concerned about them because they don't have the right attitude and I can't seem to get them to have the right attitude.
Sometimes families will give them the right attitude.
Mm.
They're down, and sometimes just people coming in, just like, oh, you have cancer. I mean, it's horrible. I mean, that's like the worst thing that you can hear, that, you yourself have cancer or a member of your family or loved ones have cancer, and they have all these, preconceived notions, Hollywood. And by the way, most of the oncologists that you see in movies are such jerks. They're just so, but anyway,
That's so
we would
funny.
want
That's actually
yeah,
a question that I ask a
yeah,
lot of the people are on, like, what do you see in a movie that drives you completely nuts?
that just like, I'm sorry, there's nothing more I can do for you. Next patient, please. Yeah, yeah. So,
Oh man.
so
So do
what we
you
were
ever
talking,
try to, when you talk to the family, do you try to get the family to provoke the customer, not a customer,
no
patient?
one could be treated against their will, but you were just talking about attitude. Sometimes, when they come in, I can tell them, like, yes, it's horrible that you have cancer, but do you realize your cancer is driven by an ALK mutation, and I'm going to treat your cancer, with a pill. And we're going to be sitting here hopefully in 2, 3 years. I don't know what's your fate, but that's it's completely foreseeable and feasible, or we're going to treat you with, a immunotherapy. And, again, we're going to be here in 6 months and a year, or, 2 years, we will see. I don't know your fate, but we need to fight this. We have to be a warrior here. So, once people hear that, they're excited, and their attitudes change. And, I mean, someone who even wrote a book about this. Someone that met me, a young, someone who was diagnosed very young, with lung cancer. I don't know if I should mention names or whatever. His name is Jeff Julian. Well, he's posted about this, on social media, and he's the swim team coach at USC.
Oh,
Um,
nice. Okay.
um, anyway, he was diagnosed with cancer at a very young age, and like, when in his 30s. He spoke to, 4 or 5 oncologists before seeing me. And, his whole idea was, he had already given up his hope, and hope is something that you should never give up. And then he met me, and I had that exact conversation with him, just like I just talked about, you can be treated with, immunotherapy, and there's no reason why you can't be among those patients that are going to be with us. And he said that changed his entire life. I didn't even end up being his treating physician because I didn't have the clinical trial that was available. It wasn't yet open at my institution, so I sent him to UCLA, and he got, those very drugs that we just talked about. And this is years later, and he's still alive, and even wrote a book about, never giving up hope. Yeah. Here, I have the book
Yeah.
right here. Process
When
of
oh,
Hope.
very nice. Okay, cool. When people give up hope, it's because they assume that they actually know something. And most of the time when you dig down, you find out that they've just made an assumption.
Yeah.
and they don't actually know. They just think and have it's more emotional than it is factual. Okay, so I asked so with respect to this show, there's a lot of shows out there that deal with politics and a lot of shows that deal with religion, and this ain't one of them.
Good.
So I try to keep this show like unless your faith or your politics is 100% relevant, like we're just not talking about it. And so I asked I asked somebody, an adult, what would be a question that you would ask them? And so, like, I say that just like I think my question will make a little more sense after I've said that. Some people smoke cigarettes, and that's the reason why they get lung cancer. But other people like smoke marijuana or smoke different sorts of things. Are there some that are, I mean, I assume that there's some that are more toxic and more inclined to uh, give you lung cancer than others. Is that right?
We're talking about addiction. So, there's no judgment. People smoke
Yeah.
cigarettes.
No, I'm just talking biology. I'm just curious biologically.
Cigarettes have been designed, to be highly addictive.
Oh yeah.
So,
No, I am a no mercy on the cigarette manufacturers. They they murder their own customers and addict them, and I have like no sympathy or pity on them at all. I was just curious biologically if there's some things that people smoke that are more likely to give them cancer than.
some of the cancers I see, a good 30% are never smokers. So,
Oh, that was
cancer
that was
doesn't,
one of the other questions.
yeah, doesn't
So what?
discriminate.
So for them, it's going to be something like genetics. Is it going to be like exposure, environmental exposure?
Could be. That's great insight. It could be environmental exposures like pesticides. Some of my research has been
Yeah.
into why young people, less than 40 or are getting lung cancer. And, we just use like, just questionnaires, like, reaching out to these people, filling out a questionnaire. And, one of the findings just by questionnaire, it's just a hypothesis, is that some of these people have eaten a healthier diet, meaning they've eaten more fruits and vegetables. It's not the fruits and vegetables causing their cancer, it's a possibility of some kind of an exposure like
Yeah.
pesticide. It hasn't
Gotcha.
been borne out. It's just a hypothesis. We don't
Yeah.
want,
Ask the
any,
question. We're
but
not
yeah,
like don't make me dance on eggshell. Don't make me walk on eggshells. I just need to know so that we can put it into the pool and we can see if there's a commonality.
very insightful. You should be a researcher, Adam. You're very
I am a researcher. I'm researching people.
that
I find everybody. I think the only reason why people don't find other people interesting is because they don't ask enough questions. That's really where this whole podcast started. Was I'm like, I just want to normalize asking great questions, and I think that if people watch the show enough, like part of it is I want to develop the ability to ask better and better and better questions, and I think that if you watch good questions get asked, and like that's why the good answer came out. Yeah, I love this stuff. I am a researcher.
Yeah. But like some of the media outlets, that cover cancer research, they were like,
Mm.
healthy diet is linked to lung cancer. And it's like, no, you've missed the whole in
No,
between. Yeah,
that breaks
so
my heart because I love information and I love good journalism, and it breaks my heart what what information has become, the way that people sell it to get attention, to sell marketing. It's
yeah.
always been kind of money driven and marketing driven. Um, but
And now it's
like I
politicized.
remember watching it about 25 years ago, start to change. And then a friend of mine made a comment just in passing about 10 years ago. He said he made a comment that people are able to curate their news feed. And I was like, oh no, we're going to become more divided than ever because
We are. We
nobody
are.
knows nobody actually understands what the other side even thinks.
Or
When we
see.
had three news outlets, you were required to listen to what the other side had to say. There wasn't any getting around it. Now, you don't even need to know anything. Like everybody's just a caricature. Breaks my heart because I hate that
That too.
that people so misunderstand other people. Um, okay, so what do you think I should have asked? I've asked you all of the questions that I really have.
So
What were you
I want another
expecting me to ask?
question. I want another question from, the 8-year-old that you Googled.
Okay, so well, one of them you already hit. Why do some people get lung cancer that don't smoke?
Okay.
Um, um, and then the other one actually was, are some things more likely to give you cancer than others? Like, uh, so yeah, you
You
already
already.
kind of touched on those. Yeah.
Okay. So what if you didn't ask? I don't know. You've asked a lot. Um, I, I think, some of the messages is, you do have to find your passion and don't let people turn you away from that. I know, I've spoken to, many young people, some in my family, and, it's been very much like, okay, should I get this higher degree? What is the risk benefit? When I graduate, what does the job pool look like? How much money am I going to make? And I'm like, follow your passion. Do you love the law? Do you love the Constitution? Then go to law school. You know, you're going to be doing this like, more time in your adult life than you do anything else, your occupation. Just follow your passion. If you want to go to law school, just go because you love the law and not that, oh, well, they're not paying so much money when I graduate. So follow your passion. Don't get discouraged. Leave statistics behind. Just follow what you want to do.
We get paid in a few different ways. We get paid financially, but we also get paid emotionally. Um,
100%.
and what we do for a living, um, there definitely comes a point when what you do, maybe you moved into the wrong position within the business or the organization, where now it's sucking the life out of you. The classic one is when a really, really great salesman becomes a sales manager, and they're related, but it's a completely different job. And the sales manager now he's just terrible because he doesn't manage people well. He just manages himself really well, and he loves working with people. I'm sure that there's, I mean, it's just kind of like that. And but okay, okay, so um, I really appreciate you coming on, Barbara. I'm very happy that that was a lot of fun, and I'm definitely going to be like I did with Sudan and other people. I'm definitely going to be asking you who you know that I should know that I should meet, because really I just want to explore having a great conversation with somebody and create an encyclopedia for my grandkids, um, so that they are I think that curiosity and love are synonyms in conversation. I think that when you ask lots of questions, you're just expressing caring and love, and I haven't found a way around that. And so yeah, thank you. I really appreciate you coming on. I'm gonna hit stop on this, but don't go away. Okay. Okay. So